Good afternoon and welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 474, and today we're going to be covering Immersion Labs and what is going on this July. What's he got cooking? And without further ado, I'm going to be bringing on Mahipal Lunia. If you guys don't know, he runs Immersion Labs, and I'm not mistaken, I think this is the sixth one, and we're going to go into a bunch of questions and regarding like what his theme is this year, why he chose it, what was the inspiration, and what folks can look forward to in there. So without further ado, I'm going to be bringing up, if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from, smash that like button, and we're going to get started. If you do have questions, please put them in the comment section. I will get to them. However, though, if they're not really in within the context of what we're talking about, I will definitely get to it, but I might wait till it's better served. Okay? So here he is. All right, how are you?
Hey Dean, how are you?
Good, 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 good. So always a pleasure to have you on. As I
Thank you,
said it
sir.
before, and I tell folks, I think what you do is just absolutely amazing. I can't even wrap my head around it, to be quite honest with you. Just looking at what you do, someone gives me an anxiety attack, but that's just me.
You just have to be a
Way
little
over my
insane.
pay grade.
No, it's just you got to be stupid enough to say, "Oh, it's not been done. I'm going to do it." That's all.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But just amazing, amazing stuff what you've done and been doing, and yeah. So sixth year. Um, when we just, for folks who maybe don't know, before we go into what you're going to be doing this year, why don't you maybe just give a brief synopsis of like what the Immersion Labs is about? What are you doing?
Okay. So quickly, right? I lead the Immersion Foundation. The Immersion Foundation, the main work of Immersion Foundation is the study of hopology, which is armed combat around the world. And secondly, the preservation of systems which are on the verge of perhaps extinction. Because I think these things from around the world have to be saved. And it's when these systems die, a part of our history, a part of who we are dies, right? So that's the main crux of what the Immersion Foundation does. Now, Immersion Labs is one of the offerings of the foundation, and the labs is one of the few places that has a public interface, meaning we allow others to come in and join in on the madness for us to move forward. Now, what the labs are, I think it's best described as one intense M fucking weekend of a lifetime. Not my words, words that people have said. So, what it means is that you're going to be on the mat for 40 hours.
Jeez.
Second, you're
Right.
going to have 10 to 12 experts, sometimes more,
Mm,
all covering one topic. Third, many a times these guys don't like each other or don't see eye to eye. Fourth, the whole idea is to have a mind fuck or a mind meld, depending on how you see it. Now,
mm,
why this particular way? Because I think, I think we live in an attention deficit environment where everything's become the world of tweets and reels. And similarly with the seminars, even when they're advertised as 2 and 3 day seminars, it's usually 3 hours on day one, 4 hours on day two, or something like
mm,
that, right? So while I understand it has its room and its place, but as our name suggests, there's something that happens when you truly immerse yourself in something, right? There's a a particular flowering that happens, a particular crystallization that emerges, and it stays with you, mind, body, and soul for a while. So many a times you do one of these labs, uh, you walk out, you're like, I don't know what happened there, right?
mm.
And then, but over a period of months and sometimes years, those things are still unpacking. And this is not just been my experience, but the experience of people that have attended the labs and still talk about the first lab that we did, which was Legacy of the Blade, or the second lab, Stigmata. So so that's what the Immersion Labs is. It's a foray into understanding comprehensively a particular topic, right?
Mm.
um, yeah, you can dance around, let's say sticks, right? You can dance around, and most of us have done stick fighting, and even after 20 years, we're still looking and hunting for things and saying, oh, this, that. But what if we could bring a bunch of them from all around the world together in one place at one time? And now you figure out quickly with one ticket, you figure out quickly what speaks to you and what doesn't speak to you, instead of trying to bounce around all around the world trying to say what makes sense to me or not. So that's what the immersion labs is, which is but a small part of the overall work that we do at the foundation.
When you say wow, 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 when you mentioned 40 hours, um, how is that like? Is that within the Friday to Sunday? How's that broken?
Yeah, Friday to Sunday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day. Okay.
6 a.m. Oh.
Okay. 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And usually I have to throw people out at 10 p.m. You would think they would be itching to leave, but so often they're standing outside and arguing
Okay.
and discussing things, because I think once that second wind kicks in and that adrenaline kicks in, something magical happens. But expect on Monday to have a severe crash. Okay.
When you get home, you
Yes.
mean?
Yeah, on the way home, you're going to have a
Oh
severe
my
crash.
God, you'd be like in a coma. Like what? When you say 6 a.m. to 10, now are those? I mean, like, is there downtime? Is there like?
Depends what you call downtime. We've had guys faint, so that is downtime. We've had we have two breaks. Okay, we have a lunch break and a dinner break
Gotcha.
for 1.5 hours each. And during the breaks, we have guest presenters who will usually present original papers on topics that are of interest to people. So, what happens is that you're sitting there having lunch or dinner, and you can choose to either sit and listen to some of these guys and their original research, or just step out and do your thing.
I just like relax, talk to somebody, maybe.
Yeah,
So
whatever you want. Yeah.
okay, okay. On any given day, are there teachers teaching at
No,
different times? The
only
same.
one teacher teaches at a time. In every one of my labs, all I would say 90% of the teachers take part in other teachers' workshops. So this is kind of like Eric Noss put it well, Top Dog. He said, "Yeah, this if you're here, you're 1% of the 1%, and this is where masters come to learn, right?
Mm.
Because we leave the ego at the door. There's no bullshit, no rank. You're not going to be Grand Poobah, Dean Franco, the CEO of FMA discussions. You're going to be, hey, Dean, you know.
Which I kind
Uh,
of prefer, to be honest with you. Yeah, like
but you get
it's
my point, right?
no, I
So,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, there are some elders like, Guru Ron Lucius, we call him Guru. It's just much more out of respect. He's 80, right?
Mm,
But it's everybody shows up there pretty much as a peer, and uh, your red belt, your purple sashes, your supersized waist belt doesn't matter.
right. And so each, generally speaking, each person's going on, like you're saying, a couple hours. Is that
3 hours.
3 hours?
And generally we try to structure it as the say you have 1, 2, 3, right? Say so each day we have three major presentations. Generally it's a thread that ties together, either complementary or absolutely opposed, right? Where one guy will say uptick is good, and the second guy will tell you, I'm going to talk to you about why uptick is the worst thing in the planet. And then you have these three sessions go back to back, and each one taking the other session. Because look, what we don't need is propaganda, right? What you need is to be able to hear each side and then test it and find out for yourself what works and what
Right.
doesn't work, right? Aptic may work for you, it may not work for me. Disarms may work for you. I mean, Mark Nikita, the guy could disarm, I don't know, freaking flying F-16, as far as I'm concerned. He's that good. I can't do that. But that doesn't mean disarms are bad. It
Right.
just means, these guys have honed it to a particular perspective, a particular way of doing things. And here's your chance to see, is this for me? And then if this is for me, now this door has been opened to you. Because, like, as you've seen my work for a few years now. Many guys show up that may not be known to the general public, and these are not necessarily your popular name brand guys, right? But this opens the doors. One of the guys who attended 3 labs, he was recently in Hawaii, and he picked up the phone and he called Olohe Jerry Walker, and he's the granddaddy of the Hawaiian art of Lua. And he didn't expect much to happen out of it. But these guys
Right.
connected at the labs. So Olohe Jerry Walker gave him a whole tour of the island and the history of Lua. So some
Wow.
amazing connections happen, and doors that would otherwise not be opened open for good.
Yeah,
And
right. Just
I attribute that not to me or the
yeah,
foundation, not at all. I attribute that to the way this experiment has been built, and no Hall of Fames, no Grandmasters, no bowing
right.
26 times. Oh, this is a 7,000-year-old sword from Japan. Okay, does it cut? That's all I care about,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So that's the perspective that we have taken. Is it good? It's good for me. May not be good for you. Is it right? It's absolutely right for me. May not be right
Right.
for you. But we
Yeah.
continue with that madness.
Wow,
Does that make
wow.
sense?
No, 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 absolutely. I mean, so just like I said, folks, we got John Kus Amok. All right, we got Francisco. We got Hannah. Okay, we got David Parker, GM Ron, GM Yuli. We got Renee. Don't want to know. I know either. We got Brian Canada, Norman, Robert Small, and Paradell Racas, and Brent Pierce. All right, guys. Yeah. So, okay. So we got a little how the dynamic goes there during those 3 days. So you're kind of like head explorer in residence at the Immersion Foundation. That's kind of unique, different, you know.
Yeah, basically means I explore shit.
I
Right?
explore.
I explore. Therefore, I exist. Right? Now, it's something that exists within organizations like Nat Geo and a few other orgs, whose job it is to go out, find, search, preserve. That's what I do, and I didn't want to uh, have my marshal titles there. I have a few. I didn't want
Yeah.
those there because I think that prevents me from building bridges, especially with all the different people that I'm working with. The
Okay.
ego comes in and whatnot. But this explorer in residence clearly describes what I do, and it's helped me build more bridges than walls.
I think it's kind of neat. I think it's different. Yeah, I like it. We got Brand, we got Glenn jumping in, we got Rich and Renee. By the way, this is a killer jacket. YouTube. Renee likes your jacket. All right. So, all right, you've done 6 of these.
Yeah.
What on earth made you think like, hey, I'm going to just look into freaking prison systems and just brawling bikers, brawlers, backroom, whatever. What was the inspiration or the eye? Where did this come from?
Excuse me. So it is not something that just popped up yesterday and I decided to do it, right? Uh, for those who have followed my work, I had bought Lloyd in 2018 on his US trip and got a lot of stuff started
Yeah.
with Hyper. I had been working on a project called The Left Hand of God since then. And the reason I was calling it The Left Hand of God is all the brawling systems that are not quote unquote systems, right? And trying to model, okay, how do these guys move? What is their mindset? What allows them to make these skills? How is it that they have such low regard for life? This is not
Mm,
good or bad, but it's a very particular way of being, right? And I said, okay, and if you are truly studying martial arts, I mean, talk to any guy, right? Any FMA guy, any art that we're studying. Oh yeah, I'm trying to study real violence and how to deal with violence. But I would say that 99% of the martial artists have never been in a fight.
Mm.
I don't call rolling on the mat or, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
going
right.
on
Or
a,
something like in a leaving a bar, and now you got a big 3 on
yeah,
3. And days I used to, I don't brag about it, but it's nothing. But yeah, I get your point. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, right? I mean, okay, yeah, we have all those championship medals. Yeah, I've done that, been there, done that, represented countries. Yeah, but still, I would get my ass handed to me when I dealt with some of these guys. So then,
Yeah.
what was the difference that allowed them to do what they did? So that Left Hand of God was a project that I've been trying to pull together since 2018. And if you think trying to bring all these characters in one room at one time is easy, try it. There's a reason no one's done it before,
I can't even imagine the process. Yeah, like I
right?
kind of alluded to.
Yeah. So then I said, hey, if we look at violence, it's not just prison systems. That's a very small frame.
Yeah. Mm.
True violence exists in multiple frames. Number one, the battlefield arts. If you look at some of the Indian arts that I'm bringing out now, these guys went out to fight to the death. The Urmi, their job was to clear out an overall infantry, right? Uh,
Mm.
the arts that I'm showing come from the Thugis and the Luteras. This was assassination, how they zeroed in on a particular person or a group and killed them. The sword and shield was the Sikhs that went in all out. Now these three groups that we have are the only three groups in India that didn't lay down their swords. When in 1819 the British passed the law
Mm.
that you couldn't have a weapon. To this day, the Rajputs walk with a sword. I'll walk with a sword in India. There's nobody who's stripping that off me.
Mm.
Okay, the Sikhs will do that, right? So this is a group that knows how to deal with that. That's one. Now, second, said let's look at the high crime capitals of the world, high crime countries, right? You're looking at Philippines, you're looking at Jakarta, Indonesia, you're looking at Brazil, right? What are the
Right.
arts that emerged from there, and how did these guys, who created some of the most fierce fighters, how do they deal with things? So we said, okay, let's look at what empty hand fighting with BJJ would be like for the street. Uh, what using two blades would be within FMA,
Mm.
right? And third, what happens when you have a head hunting axe and a golok from Indonesia and silat comes into play? So that's the second kind of violence. Now, the third kind of violence is what I call guardians at the gate. The guardians at the gate are your law enforcement, special forces guys whose job it is to protect the gates,
Okay.
right? That is, keep the bad guys out or keep the. And who's a bad guy? The guy you don't like is a bad guy, right? Freedom fighter, terrorist, very thin line that separates them. But when we say guardians at the gate, it's like whose job it is to teach you how to keep one group out of the others,
Mm.
right? So we have Rory Miller. If you haven't read Meditations of Violence, you're missing out on something, and he's a true treasure. And then you have this some dude in Florida called Tom Sotis. You may not have heard
Who's
of him, but
Thomas?
yeah, he's
Who?
yeah, he's a
Who's
pain in.
Tom Sodas?
Yeah, he's one guy, so he's coming, right? So that's a third kind of violence, right? Now you have a fourth kind of violence. Well, I call this the outlaw violence. You know, what do bikers do? How do they
Mm.
spot violence? What about bars? How do the bouncers deal with it? And what about a culture where fighting in the bars is a way of life? Irish stick fighting. I mean, Ireland is the only place where I actually heard someone say, "Is this a private fight or is it a free for all?" I was
Oh,
like,
that's too
"What the
funny. This is
fuck
a
are you
private fight,
saying?"
or is it a
Yeah,
free?
yeah.
That's a
So
new
so
one.
so we have guys from East Oakland. If you know anything about Oakland, one tough neighborhood. And
Mm.
East Oakland is the toughest neighborhood in the tough neighborhood, coming in to show how bikers and bouncers deal with violence. And then the Artham style of Irish stick fighting. So this encompasses the fourth area. Okay, now you do all this shit. Somehow you end up behind bars. Of course, you're innocent. Only innocent guys end up, right? So you end up behind bars. Now, what happens there? The de facto method of fighting is bare knuckle boxing.
Mm.
So, what does that dirty boxing look like? right? So we have a guy who's a two-time Golden Gloves champion, a professional boxer who was in and out of prison growing up all his life. So his view on boxing is very different than, oh, let me get with my favorite trainer on
Gotcha. Yeah.
YouTube and do this. And then from there, what happens is, in order to deal with guys who are bare knuckle boxers, an entire Americana system developed. Jailhouse Rock, 52 blocks,
Mm.
right? So then you have bare knuckle boxing, and then how does 52 blocks or Jailhouse Rock and the various shuffles from New York deal with that, right? Now you had these guys who got really good with this, fought well, and then the last piece is okay. You don't know how to deal with 52 blocks. Now concealed weapons come out, and then improvised weapons and concealed weapons in the prison come out, which completes that triad. So now when you
Mm.
think about the spectrum of violence, it is from the old battlefields, the 12th century battlefields, where these guys would take their swords and go all out, and with death was certain, but their goal was to take out anywhere from 50 to 100 people, right? From there, all the way to deploying and fighting with knives in federal high security prisons. So when we're thinking about violence, we have to look at this whole spectrum and not just be like, oh, I'm a badass prison fighter. Okay, do you really want your reputation to be a badass prison fighter?
Yeah.
Good for you, right? But that's not what this is about.
Right.
But there is truth, there is deep truth in this kind of violence. And it may not have all been completely systemized, but it gives you a perspective and a dose of reality to see if your shit will work.
I think it's yeah. I mean, just everything you're. I just think it's fascinating. Yeah. I mean, again, the characters that I shouldn't say characters. The
Yeah,
folks,
characters. They're all characters.
characters, folks.
Present company included.
Yeah, I just didn't want to come into that. It's definitely interesting. Yeah, and so I guess how'd you you're naming off the different types of violence, and and with that you wanted the identification of the certain groups that you're seeking out deliberately. How long is the process of election, or like who you think is going to fit, or who is kind of best served for this, and etc. I mean,
Okay.
I can't wrap my head around this. I'm just.
Probably, like I said, I started this left hand of God, which became Bikers, Brawlers, and Badasses in 2018.
Mm,
It came together now. Okay. I am already working on my next three labs, and those conversations, that hunting and that negotiation is already going on. So takes me anywhere from 1 to 3 years to pull one of these things together.
to get wow, 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 wow. So, and you just mentioned you're like already three into the three future ones already.
Yes, the next three.
So, the Indian art, I think this is really interesting. Everybody's heard about Indian arts, certainly, and some say, all arts kind of stem from that area, as far as the influence and their. Um, why aren't the Indian arts getting more recognition or their due? Why are they still so reclusive in nature to to your average layman? Like in the FMA discussion, I would bet you, like if I were to ask them, name an Indian art, I'm guilty. I wouldn't be able to name one. So what's going on with that?
Couple of reasons, and I won't pull any punches here now. Okay. I think number one, a lot of the arts where there's a major thing that happened in 1819 with the British rule, and prior to that, for about 800 years, the fighting with Islam, the Islamic invaders that kept coming into India, and they were ruling certain parts of India. The fights going on between um, old Indian religions and Islam, Okay, again, not a very popular topic to talk about, but that is the truth. You have to know it. That's one. And then two, with the banning of weapons and a lot of the arts going underground, the arts were taught very much in family or in clans. Because what you don't want is it to be known that you know how to wield a weapon or that you have a weapon, because you'd be arrested under the Weapons Act.
Implemented by the British. Okay.
Yes, not just by the British, even by the Indian government today. They still haven't
Oh, even
removed the ban.
present day.
Yeah, they
Okay.
haven't removed the ban on a lot of the Indian weapons. Okay, so that's number one. So it's kept very tight, very close knit. What little Indian arts you see on the web, whatnot, are performance arts. For example, Kalaripayat, right? Everyone says, "Oh, the oldest martial art in the world," but it's not. It's not the oldest. The present, the what you see mostly in Kalari, it's the reformulation that happened in 1959. Some of the oldest living Indian martial art that I'm personally aware of, like personally, not like I've heard of this guy, whatnot. Guys I've met go to 6th century AD. Okay, I myself am a keeper of palm scripts from the 8th century AD. Okay, so this predates the oldest Koryu in Japan, but this has been kept very much by blood, meaning you learned it by the bloodline and you kept it that way. Now, with my own arts, the Shastra Vidya, I have a blood oath not to teach outside blood. So I will only be teaching those particular arts to my daughters.
So
What I'm going to do is make sure I don't give them that oath, so that then it can be opened out.
so then they can so it can actually be perpetuated and it doesn't die out. Okay.
Correct. So those are two big reasons, and the third big reason is like in Asia, you know. Okay, this is going to make me unpopular, but okay, whatever. Take Filipino arts, right? Every morpho is looking for a Spanish connection.
Where's the Spanish connection?
Okay, everyone. How long did Spain rule over Philippines? Short period. The Indian Empire was there from the 8th century to the 14th century. Why don't you talk about the Indian arts when 1/6 of your language, including the word for your teacher, guru,
Guru.
comes from India?
Right. Right.
Right?
That's a good.
So
Yeah. I
within
think that's a good
Asia,
point.
there's this deep-seated racism and this inferiority complex that has gotten within the people that white men are good, indigenous are bad. Right? So with Indians too, you began to see that where it was all about studying BJJ or Jeet Kune Do and Japanese arts, is that there's a certain amount of self-hatred. So, but the only arts that existed or that came out were typically stick fighting arts and some knife arts, none of the royal arts. Right? So these are some of the reasons that some of these arts we don't hear much about. But I plan to change that, and this is step one in changing that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic that you're making an effort and leading the way in the exposure of that. Like, it's kind of sad to hear, like in the Philippines, where I'm not saying this it's as an example of the magnitude what you're referencing, what's happened in India. But for instance, like half of a lot of them not even knowing about their own indigenous
Culture.
martial art. I mean, or that like basketball, taekwondo, like you said, judo. I mean, things that so that's you
Yeah,
know
like I mean, I've seen that both with the Filipinos and Indians. I mean, two cultures that are very close to my heart, right? Where the kids, if they're studying a martial art, they're doing karate or aikido
yeah, yeah.
or jeet kune do, right? And you tell them, hey, 2 blocks from you exists Kali Ilustrisimo. They're like, what is that? Or
Yeah,
hey,
what is that, right?
the building next door to you teaches the old form of Shastra Vidya. They're like, what? The
Mm,
This has been rooted out of the
yeah.
education system and how people are taught. And every conquering force does that. When a country conquers another country, what are the two things that they remove? Is your access to weapons and your education system,
And
which is to
your
eradicate your
historic
culture.
education. Yeah.
And that's how you forget. And
That's
you
huge.
actually have to be a man of privilege to still have access to the old world and be able to learn it.
So that's, I just want to make sure we haven't missed a question. We got Eric Harris from Georgia. All right. We got Guru Terry. Renee, would you agree that people who grew up in violence don't know that they are being violent? I guess they become so desensitized, perhaps.
I think part of it is desensitized and part of it is just survival, right?
Yeah,
They
both are
have this idea that
combined.
either I'm going to live or he's going to live. Dog eat dog world.
I
So
definitely see being desensitized to it. If you're living around it constantly and you think that it becomes a norm, I mean, right?
yeah, you don't know anything else.
Yeah, so I think my life, martial arts, and know about zero about the. I see what I mean, Brent. Same here. Like, and the influence they had. I mean, everybody says it's the birth or where, where it came from that area. So are you saying
So
there was no space?
the oldest, if I may throw something here, right?
Sure, sure.
The oldest written texts that deal with war strategy goes to 3rd century BC. Written document, Arthashastra. Prior to that, there was something called the Puranas, and this goes into what is called proto and prehistory, which means when a different kind of writing existed that nobody today knows how to read it, and before that, when oral history existed. For example, recently in the Mohenjo-daro Saraswati riverbed, they pulled out a whole bunch of bronze swords,
Okay.
and they are still sharp. And this was dated to 5000 BC. Immaculate work, immaculate work,
Bronze.
right?
Wow.
So I think that even within India, there are many traditions, many texts that have never been translated, have never seen the light of the day. One of my teachers finally gave me permission to start translating this 8th century text that I have on sword and stick fighting and the philosophy behind it, so that it can be published,
Jeez. And can you imagine
right?
when it got destroyed?
A lot. For example, when the Mughals, the Muslims came in, they burnt 9 universities down. And in the old India, the universities had a rule, and it would say Shastra or Shastra Sikho. Shastra means learn weapon, and Shastra means learn the way of the eternal law, learn the scriptures. So what you were learning was not just within the Japanese idea of a kensai, a warrior monk. This is what
Mm.
everyone was. The old name for India is Bharat. What does Bharat mean? Bha means light. Rath means the vehicle, the chariot. So it was the chariot of light,
Okay, wow.
right? So these 9 universities that were burnt, hundreds of thousands of books were burnt. Second, when the
Jeez.
British came in, they seized all the war manuals, they seized fighting arts, and
Yeah, of
they were
course.
all borrowed and gifted to the Royal British Museum, where it exists to this day. And I can't get access even to some of my family
Oh,
arts.
man,
So that's
that's
what has been destroyed. And part of our work is trying to revive some of those old arts and traditions.
yeah. Here's a couple questions from Renee.
Sure.
And I'm just gonna hit my light on here. So are you saying there was no Spanish influence in FMA? And the second question is the biggest evolution of FMA was it when it came to the West?
So the
That's
first,
more of a statement. Sorry.
yeah, so I agree with the statement completely.
Yeah.
Now, was there no Spanish influence? Of course, there was Spanish influence. The Spanish ruled over Philippines, so how can there be no influence? There's a huge difference between saying I'm influenced by something and saying that this is the root of my being. Does that make sense? So you took a seminar with Dan Inosanto.
Mm,
Yes, Jeet Kundo influenced you. But is Jeet Kune Do the root of your fighting experience? And there's a
got it.
profound difference between those two statements. Does that make
Okay.
sense, Rene?
I'll just wait to hear back from Renee. Um, so the eating arts. Okay. So how many? How has the Indian arts influenced Southeast Asia?
Oh boy.
I don't want to get you in trouble, so I can pull the
It's all
question.
right. It's all right. Hugely, right? Huge. There were three major strands, right? Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam. And all three spread from India all over Southeast Asia. I mean, look at Indonesia as the highest Sufi population. Some of the first traders there went from India. Second, they still use Garuda, which is the vehicle of Lord Vishnu, as their national symbol. They use stories of Ramayana as their national story, right? There was marriages, trading routes, and Pallava and Chola empires starting in the 8th century, the Bihari empires starting in the 6th century AD, that established both maritime, and conquests all across Southeast Asia. Look at the word Indonesia. What does Indo
Mm,
mean? India. And
yeah.
Nesia means what? Islands,
Indian
right?
Island. Mhm.
So when we look at the roots of the language, when we look at the movements, when we look at the belief structure that drives it, there's a profound influence. But that doesn't mean it's all Indian, right? That's bullshit. There's a marriage that happens, right, between a certain group that comes in, settles in, and the local traditions that take over. So uh, I think the influence is profound. I think the problem with Southeast Asia in general, and I mean everything from Burma to Cambodia to uh, Burma, Cambodia, Borneo, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia. I think two things have happened. One is this nationalistic spirit rise that nothing came from anywhere else. We've got it all. Even though we
Mm,
use your language, we use your stories, we use all of this, and there's hundreds of years of records to prove otherwise. Okay, I understand that this national identity thing and this not invented here syndrome is huge. And the second thing is, I think Asia in general has this complex of being self-hating, and the links that they want to find is all to European powers, and India is included in that, right? So I think that does a disservice to some of the arts and cultures that have existed all around
mm,
this place, right? So India is not just the only one. The other big influence is the Islamic influence. So the Islamic influence took two routes. They sailed around the ocean through the pirates. Second, when they entered India and then they were traveling through India, right, from 1136, that has been influencing the development of very particular strands of animistic Islam, right? Because
mm.
the Islam that you find in Indonesia is not the Wahhabi kind that you find in the Middle East. It has a lot of elements of Hindu rituals and Christian rituals all merged with it.
Oh, far as you need. Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, this is going to
Uh,
land me in trouble, but okay.
no, no, I think no. But if anybody's open-minded and just from a historical context to want to know the influence, I mean, yeah, we definitely know the Spanish had influence and all that, but there it sounds like there was some influence pre-Spain. I mean, so
Not just pre-Spain, there's also the influence of the indigenous arts of the people, right? People who are in the mountains and never came down from the mountains, they're still fierce fighters. They didn't have too much outside influence and they developed. Then you have places like Mindanao, that was parts of the the Javanese Sumatran Empire, part of Borneo, part of itself, part of Philippines. It was the melting ground of all these three areas, right?
mm,
So I think arts don't develop in seclusion; they develop in clashes and in relationships.
right,
But
right,
when
right.
we fail to acknowledge the relationship, you lose why the art developed.
Yeah, it's like, much of what you're saying is kind of correlating with, as you know, I'm having we're covering the first Espada Daga Wednesday night. Alric, Raimundo, and Tim. And much of what they were touching upon was basically that, yeah, there was definitely some influence from Spain, but within particular context to the long and short, Espada Daga, it was more showmanship. It was more demo oriented. It's
Yes.
not like they were fighting with this, but we hear this, long and short, and they were, it's but I was one of them. And then when I started sparring around with it, I'm like, how the hell they
Oh,
make this crap work?
no, the shot will only work as a surprise when the guy doesn't know you have two.
Or there's
Number
some
one.
serious diminishment from the long. Now you can get the
Yes.
short in there. But
Yes.
yeah,
And like they keep talking about Spain. You should be talking about Iberia because there's no such thing as Spain for a while. And then the boundaries between Portugal and Spain changed quite a bit. So,
yeah.
but it was the Portuguese sailors who first sailed to the east. So why do they not talk about Portuguese
Jeez.
swordsmanship, also with two blades, and the influence that it had in Japan, that it had in Southeast Asia, especially in Macau and other areas? They didn't just land in Macau; they would have to go from Macau. They would have to go through Philippines in order to get to Japan. So yeah, I think a lot of guys
Hmm.
like to pull historical pieces and sound, say, oh yeah, this has this influence, that influence. But sad to say, most people haven't even double clicked, leave alone actually studied the damn systems.
I think what it is, we're told something, and we just, depending on who told you, you assume to be. And I've been there, guilty. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments or questions. Is it self hate or just a fascination? Is it self hate or just a fascination with the foreign? Much like
I
in America, when we become infatuated with foreign arts like judo, karate, kung fu from elsewhere. Okay,
America
got
is a
it.
different America is a different creature. I'm as
Mm.
American as Indian as well. The thing with America is that it's a rebel culture, so the exotic is attractive, right?
Mm.
But in the conquered cultures, and if you see like the native Indians, not my kind of Indians, the guys who were not Indians and got labeled Indians, right?
Okay.
The natives, the self-hate and alcoholism is huge. What's the reason? Conquering cultures do that.
Okay.
They have to get you to hate yourself and your culture in order to nullify you. This way, they defeat you without ever having to fight you.
Yeah, there you right. Oh, man, how sad. And I am Iberian. I am 35% Iberian. Nay. Renee is half Spanish. Spanish that are easy. Like, yeah, one extra show. Exactly. Okay. And uh, Tim is here. Let's see what he's got to say. Spanish and
Yes,
Portuguese function is essentially the same. Iberian is more accurate, but not many know the term.
bingo.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. By the way, he's the person you should talk to a lot more than me.
Yeah, he's
But
coming on Wednesday night, so
good, good.
we'll
For
see. What
example, a lot of
brings
people
you?
also don't know about the Iberian connection with India, right? From 1400s all the way to 1961,
Mm,
where Spain and Portugal, and then later Portugal, had a foothold in India. Now, as they were doing this, what they were doing is they were building these massive churches and fortifications. So
okay.
they would bring in guys from the old world, Iberia, right? And these guys were left here. And guess who they took back with them? Because if you're leaving these guys from the ships here in order to build your fortifications and your churches, who are they taking back? They're taking the Indians, Indian fighters. And we started to see a lot of similarities between the Maratha arts and Silambam and Jogo de Pau, right?
Joe
Again,
DePaul. Okay.
again, it's a connection that hardly anyone talks about, but that is uh, uh, 500 years of history minimum. And the one thing Iberians were really good at is keeping records of all the people who came in and went out. So those records start to show the number of people that were left in in India and how many Indians they took overseas. And you think they
Wow.
take the weakest of the bunch on the ships on a long 6 months journey, or they take the meanest, baddest motherfuckers
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna
who will
guess the last.
protect your spices and protect everything else?
Right, right, right. Wow. So this is all the Indian. Wow, 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 wow.
I haven't even
So
started. This India thing, I've been working on it for more than a decade, but just now, finally, I have permission from the elders and others to start bringing it out. So now I'm bringing it out.
So back to the Emergent Labs. You're going to be showcasing them stuff, and you got another gentleman coming in, right? The show.
Actually, couple of people coming in, right, for the Indian arts. So we have a father and son duo showing Amritdhari Khalsa. So now these are the guys who are sworn to protect the temple, right? So this is not the Gatka as in PT. These are the guys who something happens at the Golden Temple. These are the guys who go there, draw their swords.
Hmm.
Okay, and they live by a code of ethics, including the way they dress, what they eat, how they drink, to this day. So that's number one. Number two, the old form of Kalari, we have a gentleman and a lady coming in who will show the use of urmi, which is the 6 foot long, flexible, multiple flexible blades. These were guys sent in to clear the infantry, fight multiple opponents. And third is me. I'm showing an art that my ancestors hunted, showing guys that my ancestors went to kill, and part of it was had to learn their system in order to know what is it that we're fighting.
Is that
I can't
good?
show my own arts because of my blood oath, so
Right, right. But you can show.
I'm
Okay, but you
working
can show
on the other pieces that we fought. So
that. Yeah, yeah.
when you see that, because I'm not prevented from showing that, you'll be able to if you're smart enough and do your homework, you'll be able to triangulate.
So, all right. I mean, so what kind of feedback you getting? Like I mean, it's out there. People have seen it. What you're covering in this lab, it's been shared. Who's going to be there? Like,
I
what have
don't
you
know
received?
yet. I've kind of been a little under the weather, as you know, Dean. I haven't been able to really focus on it much. I think it'll start. I have a lot of people who are really curious and like, how the hell are you gonna putting all these people in one room? And
Mm,
I'm like, we are, right? So part of it now is also making sure that the right people come in, right? This is not about. I'm not in the seminar business or selling tickets business. I would be making very different decisions if that is what I was after, right? For me, this is about preservation of points of view and
mm,
bringing pieces of fighting arts that may otherwise not get the limelight into the forefront. So I get everything from WTF to you're insane to good God, I want to be there. So
insane. What are you
it's
doing?
it's all over the map.
Statues, the limitations. Yes, I know. That would have been so neat to have Michael Blackgrave there. Oh my God.
What's he saying? Yep,
He was saying statute limitations
yep,
precludes him. Yeah, that's man. I know how fun it
yep,
would have been to have him there. Huh?
yep.
Gosh.
I'm coaching a few of the people who come there to what they should and shouldn't say and why. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to
But
worry
again,
about.
I'm not one of those guys who puts out reel after reel on the web and saying, "Oh, this happened here, this
No,
happened
no,
there."
I know, I know. That's why we got you on there. But I'm guessing, though, after this show and whoever you talk to about getting some promotion and getting the word spread, I'm sure you're going to get more
Yeah.
and more.
So if I may say this, Dean, like who should attend this, right? I mean, for whom it's a good match, right?
Mm. That's a good question right there. Like, who should attend this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is not for everybody, right? It's not everybody's cup of tea. I understand that, and I'm not going to tell you, oh yeah, without this you're going to be incomplete, blah blah blah.
yeah.
No.
Your martial arts journey will
Yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah. You won't miss anything. It's just another thing. Look, if you're truly, a lot of people talk knives, a lot of people talk violence, but if you've never experienced it, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Pardon my
Mm,
French, right? So the closest thing, I wouldn't advise you to go start fighting in order to know what's real. That's dumb, right? It's
mm.
dumb, right? But the next best thing is go to people who've done it and see, hey, what happens?
There you go. Right.
Secondly, stand in front of them and see how you feel.
Mm.
No, 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 seriously, I'm not joking. Stand in front of them and see how you feel. When they turn on, that switch goes off in their head, something fucking changes.
Mm,
Do you have the courage to stand there, leave alone fight? Or are you one of
that
those guys who steps away? Even having that information is critical to prevent you from doing stupid shit. Like, let
from
me go
getting
down to the streets
annihilated.
of Rio de Janeiro and fight, right?
Yeah, for me, ending up in the hospital or morgue, right?
Yeah, yeah. So,
uh,
so I think get to see it, and then you don't have to come here and fight a guy who was in prison for 25 years. Yeah, there's two guys who were in prison for 25 years there, right? You don't want to be fighting them. Chances are you will lose badly,
yeah.
right? Uh, but maybe ask yourself, if I have to fight this guy, what is it that I need to build?
Mm,
Where is the weakness in my development,
yeah.
right? So that's one piece. Second piece is if you're historically inclined. I've never seen Indian arts. Trust me, you'll never see three Indian arts in one place. No one has done this ever before. I'm
I gotta be
tooting my
honest with
horn, but no one has done this. The last time four arts were shown in one place at one time was in the royal palace of Rajputana.
you. And that was Indian
This
arts.
Indian arts, and this is the second time. Okay, so that's a big thing. And third, there are some very reclusive characters. You're not going to get Stephen Plink to show you the Golak. You're not going to get Rory Miller to talk about how they dealt with the Mexican blades and the Mexican prisons easily. You're not going to get a comparison of bare knuckle 52 and four ranges of concealed weapon combat in one place and one time to see the entire spectrum, right?
Mm,
So you can spend many years doing a piecemeal approach, or come here and look at the spectrum and say, does this make sense to me? And then you may say, this makes no sense to me. Even having that insight could save you years of training.
I think it just for me, like I gotta be honest with you, I can't wait to say the Indian arts. Like I have zero exposure to Indian arts, so to me, that's what I'm looking forward to because it's just simply because zero exposure. Like I just never, you know what I mean?
Exactly. So for example, right, like the Indian art, if you see my picture there, I have the scarf tied to my wrist. The scarf is hanging down. At the bottom of the scarf are tied about 25 coins. The same hand has a blade, but my first attack is from my elbow. The second attack is from the scarf. The blade is more or less used as a steering weapon. It's not the
Mm,
predominant kill. But every movement has three weapons that can be unleashed. You start running away, I spin it and wrap your neck and I pull you. And you come into the blade.
yeah,
You
right.
get too close and you're overpowering me, the blade comes in. But there was a method to this madness for this particular group that ruled, that looted people and killed people freely from 1376 is the first record. And again, when I say these numbers, this is stuff I can prove. This is not just, oh, historically we've heard this nonsense.
Mm,
No, 1376. None of the Mughal rulers, these were the strongest rulers in North India, dared to touch them. They had a free reign until 1819.
wow.
Okay, but yet these are some of the methods that the West, forget the West, even the East, most people have never seen.
Yeah, let
Right?
alone the West. I mean,
Yeah.
gee, I mean, like, you're talking about East too. Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, that's man.
So
Do
so
you
each
think?
of the movements within this art, right? Each of the movements that you do, it's three
Mm,
weapons moving simultaneously in three different circles. So
gotcha.
the movement has to be that either the blade can be deployed,
Or
right?
the
Or a long club, because with the coins at the end, it can act as a club, right?
right, right.
Or
Yeah,
a
that's
wrap
my
around,
weapon too.
or my empty hands, which is basically
So
elbows, knees, and headbutts.
here's a question for you.
Yeah,
Do you think the Silat so sarong was influenced by
absolutely.
anyone?
Look at the word bandana, right? We've all heard the word bandana. That comes from the old Indian word bandhana, to tie up. It's spelled exactly the
Oh,
same
okay,
way.
okay. So sarong definitely influenced.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
okay.
that's that's part of the clothing that they wore. right?
I'm just
And
thinking the way you were talking about the thing in there. I'm like, wait a minute, is there a correlation to?
yeah,
Okay.
it starts looking the same. It starts looking similar, but then the bandhana within the Indian arts also used coins, a bunch of coins that were tied to the end of the sarong and the bandana. So this became a way to club the guy and also wrap around the neck and cause a
Yeah.
whiplash,
Right.
right? So that's the different
That's,
piece that doesn't get seen um,
yeah.
in the West.
Obviously. Here's the. I'm just making sure I'm not missing any questions here. Swearing is triggering for me, Renee.
Sorry, dude. Don't
I
end up
can
in a
see.
prison.
I can see that. All right, Michael Barker. Within the Indian arts, you're bringing, so they all have a wrestling base or piece. The Indian wrestlers were, as I know it, some of the absolute best, not
Yes.
only in competition, but also in training methodology.
Yes. Absolutely, Michael, and you've seen some of the stuff, right? Now, the Indian wrestling, there are at least three different strands, right? You have Pehlwani, which was influenced by the Turkish and the Islamic invasions of India. Second, you have the Mardani arts. These were about being the manly arts. This was part of the traditions of Kushti that was always developed as a part of the Indian repertoire. The third is arts like Bandesh and Binod. Uh, these are again two arts that deal with fighting someone when you have a shorter weapon than them, number one, and number two, when you don't have a weapon and the other person has a weapon. So it starts becoming very wrestling like, but
Mm,
more jujitsu silat rather than lift, wham, bam, slam kind of wrestling. So there's a
okay.
spectrum in which these arts are shown and expressed.
Right, that the training, like the Indian clubs, and I mean, like I think what the, it also doesn't really get touched upon, like their training methods.
Yeah,
Like,
so my goal was to have an Indian lab, but eight of my guys who were supposed to come, their visas were rejected.
oh,
Right.
the okay.
So part of the thing is because okay, sh- uh, I want to bring some of the keepers of the old traditions to show their arts, right? Rather than say, oh, here's another one.
Mm,
Here, I can show you this. I can show you that.
right.
I can show you pieces of it, but that doesn't really do justice. Can I kill 3 hours with it very easily? But I think so. For example, I got into this big argument with this well-known BJJ coach in Australia. Okay, the guy starts arguing with me on telling me that the art that I study is extinct, that my father studied, my grandfather studied, and he's like, it doesn't exist. Vajramushti is dead. I said, there are two royal houses to this day that keep stables of Vajramushti fighters. But if you're
Mm,
not connected to royalty, you're not going to see it.
and I guess okay.
But what happens is you have a lot of these guys get online and, oh, this doesn't exist, that doesn't exist. Okay. And of course, he's the guy who studied with the last Vajramushti master alive, of course. Right. I'm like, dude, he was not a master. Yes, he mastered pieces of it. But to be a master in Vajramushti, you should have one Vajramushti competitions. And two, you should be training the royal stable. Because see,
Mm,
within the Indian arts, the other thing is, okay, let's say uh, let's say you and me, Dean, right? Let's just say you have a school, I have a school. We might promote a few people to be gurus or teachers or senseis, whatever, right? So, just as a hypothetical example, right? So, there could be within that school, there could be 10 gurus, right? That's a small number here in the West. But within the old akhadas and the old Indian traditions, there can only be one guru. Only when he dies, the second person becomes a guru. So the
oh, that's
title guru is revered. So the master is that guy. That's it.
just
So
one. Okay.
yes,
Wow,
yes,
wow. Michael's, let me see here. Just curious what he thought. We think we covered that. The great
Rama
Gamma.
was amazing. Yes, he was. Yes, he Dara Singh, and there's so many. India has a very rich tradition of wrestlers. Also, a very rich tradition of sword fighters. Very rich tradition of short blade fighters, right? And the stick arts that you see were mostly peasant arts, and I'm not looking down on them, but it's these were arts that were developed in villages, whatnot, that was never taken away. So you still find that where some of these stick traditions exist, but and people have seen some of them, right? But that's just a small slice of the Indian arts.
Somebody, whether they get exposed to immersion labs if they attended, or maybe they just have a general curiosity and an interest to learn. Like, is there any besides yourself or whatever? But is there any teachers in the U.S. that are actively teaching Indian martial arts?
Uh, uh, there are
We will
people
need
who
to
claim to
table that
be,
question later.
there are people who claim to be teaching Indian martial arts,
Yeah.
and then there are people who teach the Indian martial arts.
Okay.
The people who teach the Indian martial arts around the world. Okay, in the West, there are not more than 4 people that I could name.
I was gonna say, like, I never even heard of it actively being taught here, but that doesn't mean it's not being taught. It just means I haven't heard of it.
For example, you find Kalari a lot very easily, and you also find a lot of Western practitioners. You find a lot of practitioners, Western practitioners, teaching Kalari, right? And a portion of Kalari. Kalari became the performance art, and it's kind of like um, the YMCA karate, right? But the YMCA karate is not your Koryu martial arts.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? Right?
Okay.
So doesn't mean that YMCA karate is not good, it's not legitimate, but it's not the old art. Right?
It's
So
just
in the
saying
UK,
that.
there's only one person I would say to go to, a gentleman by the name Susanto Das. No, don't even name that other asshole. Okay? Susanto Das is the only person that.
The other guy. Oh, wait. I think I know who you might
Oh
be
my
referencing.
God. I just
Oh,
said,
you're
don't
talking about the
even.
guy. He's kind of got a Facebook kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. That's. Don't get me started. Sanatan is the name of the old religion, but he's a Sikh. Second, Sikhs do Gatka, they don't do Shastar Vidya. Don't get me started. And a lot of stuff is.
All right. So I've heard. Unfortunately, I've heard mixed things. I just didn't know what to believe or not. Obviously, not having any knowledge
You
or
know what,
background.
man? For me, this is close to my blood, so I will speak. Okay, and I've said I will lay down my blade if it's taken from me, and he's aware of it. Okay, so okay, and there are three, four others who've said it. And Dean, you've known me long enough. I'm not one of those guys who goes out challenging people or being an asshole. If anything, I think I'm very
No,
subdued. But
I don't think anybody would.
but
I don't
this
think
is
anybody would think that. Yeah, or
but
has
this is
or thinks.
this is a very gross misrepresentation of Indian arts, a very gross misrepresentation of Indian culture, and I think it does more disservice to my people, my country, and so it's one of my two homelands. So I will speak up against it. And the only other place I would speak up against is somebody goes against this country. This is my second homeland. So, yeah.
Where's he current? Does he currently resides in England?
Yeah. Anyway, but you're in England. You want to learn Indian martial arts? Go to a guy called Susanto Das. And if you don't know how to reach him, reach out to me. Okay.
And
So
he's
in
obviously
England, he's the guy to go learn.
he's a guy. Okay.
He's the guy.
All right. That guy is good. Okay. So, oh yeah, just bear with me. This camera, I swear to God, I have no idea why it does this. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to remove myself and come back. That's what fixes this camera,
Yeah, I mean,
unfortunately.
if you're interested in while he comes back, if you're interested in Indian arts, reach out to me. I'll try and put you in touch with some of the right people. There are guys out there in India. There's a guy called Adrian Jagmug. He's doing great work trying to preserve some of the old arts. There's another guy called Mahesh Kumar. There's Guruji Rajendran Prasad. So these are some of the guys that have kept very specific traditions alive. There's the Gurkha arts, there's the Sikh arts, and many a times within the Indian culture, we don't get along with each other. Okay, but the fact that all of us say, "Hey, these things have to be
Mm,
preserved," and stop some Australian or some Britisher reframing and recolonizing the Indian arts. Let's show what it really is, and that's why these guys and me, like some of us, have traditionally fought each other for centuries. Okay, but we are all coming together saying, hey, we got to show this and show what these arts are
work
all about.
together before, right? Before they go freaking abyss
Extent.
and
Yes.
nobody knows them, you know? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Boston. Yeah, it's funny. I purposely don't list my birthday because I'm just not that type of guy. But it got leaked, and yeah, last year it didn't get leaked and was pretty nice. But this year it got leaked. But yeah, what do you do? But so what add this. Where's your goal? I mean, like obviously you want to get people. So let's touch on that. How many attendees are allowed to come this year?
I generally aim for about 20,
You
right?
aim for 20. Okay.
Generally, I aim for 20. And this is a good mix. Like some of the people in this have been to things that I've done. And part of it is to make sure it's a good fit both for me and them, because at the end of the day, the easiest thing is for me to take money from them and then have them have a shitty experience, which is I don't see them again. That's okay. But then they ruin the experience that I have, and then they ruin the experience that the other instructors have. The fact that all these teachers and different people come together, they are kind to me, they honor me by showing up and rearranging things. I have to also make sure that they are treated with extreme respect and love, and this doesn't become a pissing match, or it doesn't become about
Yeah.
filling a space up.
Right. Everybody just working
Because
together, journey on
here's the
together.
goal, right? The goal is the archival, the goal is the preservation, and the goal is for these 20, 25 people who are truly interested to open certain doors for them that would otherwise not have been opened.
Well,
Right? So just as an example, we opened the doors for Rangomomo, the wrestling arts of the Maori royalty. We opened the doors to Jogo de Pau. We're opening the doors to the Indian martial arts. We bought Lloyd over, and the whole thing with Piper started and introduced Burton. We bought in the gypsy knife fighting from the Italians. We started bringing more of the we wanted to start an open discussion around the Filipino arts and the Spanish arts and the Filipino arts and the Indian art, laying the foundations and opening the doors by bringing some of these people who may not necessarily otherwise all be in the same time, same place. Because I think these questions have to be asked. We have to look at the relationships that exist between these pieces, and
mm,
that's what it is. So the guys who want to come, it's about opening those doors. It's about
yeah.
having a comprehensive view of that particular topic and then choosing to dive in or not.
So what's the max you'll take? You want 20. I mean, 20 is kind of like like 30. Like when do you say
No,
cutoff?
no. Look, the issue is scale, right? So we want to make sure that it's the right 2020, maybe 25 at the most.
25 at the most. Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, because look, if you have 30, 35 people, yeah, it probably will cover my costs. But what happens at that point is that the instructors won't be able to teach. If there's a smaller group, the instructors can actually get deeper. But if you have 30 to 50 people, you have one or two techniques and then it's over, right? So there's this balance that has to happen. And, like Brian's been to the thing, Tim has been to uh, Tim has been to one of the events. You'll see that all the instructors also jump in, and we encourage that. And that's what we want, you know?
Yeah. Right. I mean, like here you're, yeah, like in Sydney. Right.
I
Gotcha.
mean, like you walk in, you'll see Eric Noss training and Martin Wheeler training and Mark Mikita training and Stephen Plink training. How many places are you going to see that?
No, no. I bet not a lot. Yeah. Not many.
So
Yeah.
so that's the thing, because at the end of the day, Some of these guys have spent their lives crystallizing these arts, but have never been exposed to some of these other things. And then suddenly these connections happen, these friendships begin, and perhaps we get one step closer to the truth.
No, again, what you
And
do.
again, I could be, Dean, I could be all wrong, right? And at the end of this 10-year thing, I may say I was just full of shit. It's possible. I'm open to that possibility. But this is the madness that I'm following, you
I
know?
don't think so. By the virtue of who you've had come there, I don't think so. I mean, like, if you look at the resume of these folks that you've had there, or just a list of instructors you've had previously come to these immersion labs, I don't see how anyone can draw that conclusion. I mean, you've had some.
But you know my point. You understand my point. I remain open to the fact that, hey, I could be completely wrong. I think I'm onto something. I'm not sure
I
exactly
think
what it is,
so.
but I think I'm onto something.
Yeah, yeah, no, I would absolutely tend to agree. Again, if anything, I don't see anybody else doing this or remotely close, as far as what you're trying to achieve and what you've been doing for the last five, anyhow. Wow, wow, wow. So, just want to make sure. Hey, oh, okay, that's Ryan, um, the gentleman I was messaging you about. Yeah, yeah. So when you get okay,
Okay, any other questions? Any other thoughts?
no, I got me in, but I mean, I got a few more thoughts. So they get there Friday morning.
Uh,
Now,
no. You want to get there Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, they
Six
get
six
there.
a.m. Friday. I start 6:30. The doors close.
When you say doors closed, I remember you
It
mentioning this.
means you're not coming in after that.
Okay, but also you're not leaving. What's the
You can
deal
get
there?
out. You're not coming back in.
So you have
Hey,
like they're staying. Everybody's staying right there, rooms, the whole 9 yards.
no. You're staying in the room and training, right? During the
Correct.
break, you can step out.
Okay,
But
but at night though, you go wherever they.
nights, you go wherever you're going.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So the reason also is we are recording all this stuff, right, on very high-end sensitive cameras. So we don't want people slamming doors open, close, all the noise and all that nonsense.
Sweet jacket. Renee's saying, "Where did you?" He's loving your jacket. I guess.
I don't remember, dude. I've had it for a long time. I don't know where I got it.
Yeah, I'll be in touch, Renee. See when you can come on. We gotta see the time difference. I'll message you then. So okay, doors close 6:30.
So you show in at 6. You sign in, just introduce yourself to everyone. 6:30, we just have a quick meet and greet until about 6:45. A 10-minute break. Grab your cup of coffee. 7 a.m. first session starts.
First at 7. Now, so you
And
start
and
there.
and I really run it. And the guys who've been, they'll tell you I run it by the clock.
9
Uh,
o'clock.
so when we say it starts at 7, it starts at 7.
It starts at 7. So are you
Not
each person teaches
7:01, not
at 7
6:59. It
7
starts at
o'clock.
7. Yes,
So each person teaches, like, for instance, like you said, 3 hours.
3 hours.
An hour
Yes.
each day.
No, 3 hours nonstop.
So if somebody might go on a Saturday, their segments on Saturday. Do you teaching?
Yeah. So let's say you're teaching Saturday morning.
Gotcha.
Your session is 3 hours, say 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And that's
Gotcha.
it. And then the rest of the time you are
You're just
taking part in
you're
every other
taking part in
session.
other people. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay. Gotcha. Um, wow. It sounds yeah. I, yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to Brian and Burton and see what I'm getting. Because Burton did it, right? He did one of the first ones, right?
Yeah, Burton did it with me. Brian's done it. Tim was there.
Tim was
So you
there.
can talk. Yeah, Tim was there recently. So I think Brian was there when Burton was there. Yeah, I was.
Yes,
That
because
was
that's in the same time Lloyd was there.
Lloyd was there. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yep.
yeah. I think everybody complains about the same thing, that not enough hours to sleep. So
Not enough hours to sleep because they're ready. So you're saying because folks are what leaving at 10? You said
yeah, by the time you leave at 10, you get back to your hotel
you're
10:30,
winding
11.
down. You're trying, and then you're trying, and yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, there's a very specific, one of the other strands that I've spent 25 plus years studying is neurosciences, and that's a big part of my work and my life. And one of the big things is creating these environments of deep immersion where you're overwhelmed by what you're doing, right? And that creates an opening, a crack. And I call it the crack in the cosmic egg, so that that ego and the structure that exists can dismantle a little bit so something else comes through.
Mm, no,
Tim is
it
like, it's
sounds.
nonstop.
Thanks, thanks, Tim. Just what I wanted to hear. Not just kidding. Are you away from Germany? Awesome. Wow, wow, wow. They're fantastic. So, what can we
But
do? I guess.
look. How many opportunities are you going to get to do immersions like this? Not too many. So if you're
Yeah.
going to spend your time, effort, and money, you should get the best fucking value
No,
for
no,
it.
no, no. And it sounds like you're also
So
you're doing.
that's the way I think about it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Also, I'm living on borrowed time as far as I'm concerned. So I want to squeeze in the most that things have to offer, so that to say, hey, this is what we're all about.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, no. I think it's yeah. We got Brand here. Are the Pakistani martial arts relative to the Indian arts seeming
There
to
was
be
no
strong?
Pakistan until 1947. Pakistan is part of Akhand Bharat, the old India.
Okay.
The arts that exist in India are the arts that exist in Pakistan. A big change happened starting in the 12th century with the Turkish and the Islamic rulers coming in. However, it was not until 13th century that the first Islamic rule got established in Afghanistan before it came down to Pakistan. Afghanistan also used to be Indian arts. It was Kandahar and Gandhar were old Indian kingdoms. Again, India didn't exist till 1947. This was Bharat. This was the old subcontinent. So this was all one people, right? But the present day so-called Pakistani martial arts are new inventions starting in 1947, August 14th, number one. Number two, most of them try to draw just one strand of fighting, which is a link directly to Muhammad himself, the prophet, to say, hey, this is the holy fighting arts. So but also understand that 10 million Hindus to this day still live in Pakistan. A part is called Pakistan occupied Punjab. So you find the Gatka arts, which are still there, but those also don't get any limelight. So when you hear the word Pakistani martial art, generally used these days, this is the Islamic modern interpretation of Islamic fighting arts. And with that, I will start getting hate mail too.
Oh, so we'll leave that at that. But no, awesome, awesome. So what can we
History
do?
is messy, History is messy. A lot
Yeah,
of guys talk about it, but don't do the work.
right, right.
So
And maybe yeah. So what can we do, I guess, as a community to continue promoting this? I can certainly
yeah, I
bring it
mean,
back up to the
help me get the
culture.
word out, guys. I mean, this may not be a cup of tea, but put it out there. There might be somebody, a buddy of yours or a friend whose cup of tea it might be. You might think I'm insane. That's okay. We need a few insane people too. Also move things along. And you might say, hey, this is something I want to do. And in which case, reach out to me. I'm looking for fellow insane brothers and sisters to say, okay, let's try this out. And until we don't try, until we don't open these doors, we don't know what lies behind. And the goal here now is an evolution of the Left Hand of God project that had started to find some of the unsystemized, the not so open, brutal fighting that you don't find in your dojo. That you're not going to find in your sale. It's not. This is not rules based. This is I live, you die.
Sounds like it would be amazing, like your previous ones, which have gotten nothing but accolades from the people I've spoken to that have attended it. So I don't expect anything less from this one that you're having.
And
So
most of all, I think we'll all just have fun. I see this as becoming more a gathering of peers and friends, and we say,
yeah,
hey, this is the shit that I've been doing, and does it make sense to you? Does it not make sense to you? That's it.
no, and I think I like the idea of people just getting together and just getting to know one another and find what they're about. And there's definitely some folks there that I'm highly interested in that regard to speak to and et cetera,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, for example, like the one of the projects that I've been working on for a year and a half is this translation of one of these old Spanish gypsy blade books, and looking at the migration of the gypsies and how they started in northwestern Indian frontier, made their way all the way uh, into Spain, then they disappeared. But some of the existing knife cultures from the gypsies are with the Romanis in Italy, and some of the traveler traditions in Ireland, but then also the migration of some of these gypsies into the New World and how that
Mhm.
impacted the knife culture, right? So, how does the Navaja move like the buoy? Why are the shapes similar? What was the cultural influences? How did that end up in Argentina, and the development of the falon? Now, why is it that you have the use of the cape and the jacket, which is so predominant in the old Spain and in Argentina?
In
Why did they
Argentina,
fight at that range? Right. So
yeah.
those become some very interesting questions. And this project that my team has been working on for about a year and a half now, that'll be opened by one of the guys who's a maestro in Italian fencing and leads Maestro Marco Cuarta's schools in Mexico, coming down, and I've been teaching him hopology and whatnot, and he'll be opening that piece up. So the work of the foundation is also to lay, if in my life I can inspire 5 guys who take on this work and make my work irrelevant because they've taken it to such great strides, then it's a well-lived life.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I appreciate what you do, but again, perhaps I got a little better insight, but I think folks really should, to the magnitude of what you do and what you're putting together, the organization, the people you're in contact with, just I mean, the different continents and countries and time zones and I mean, it goes on and on. And you've been at this now, this will be your 6th year putting this together, and God knows whatever you were doing before the Immersion Labs. I mean, so yeah,
Did I
incredible.
ever tell you the story of how Immersion Labs got started as a joke?
I don't think, or not that I recall, anyhow. Let's hear it.
Well, I wanted to record the Shastra Vidya arts. My teacher wanted to get rid of me. So he said, oh, the arts develop because you have to study the relationships. If you want me to record Shastra Vidya, go and record all the arts that influenced it, and then I'll do this. So he said it to me to get rid of me. I didn't understand that. I went and started recording it, and then he didn't have a way out.
Oh, okay. So you, okay.
So, so yeah, that's how the whole joke started, and here
So
we are.
what came out of it? Oh, wow, look at that, though. Jeez. Man, oh man. Now, yeah, we're gonna have to just keep sharing, pushing this, in the groups and all that. And you got in touch. We'll see if any luck. Touch base with Paulo. See if he can get you on.
I'm sorry, what?
Get in touch with Paulo. See if he can bring you on. I can touch or base with him, or you.
Yeah, yeah. And anyone who wants to talk to me about it, and I would love to talk about some of these things,
Yeah.
even with some of the training methods or some of the history. And let's go into the politically unsavvy thing of talking about the actual influence of the Indian arts of the Filipino martial arts, and then let's let the FMA hate mail begin to you and me. Yeah, but I think you should open those questions if you're a true student of history, if you're a true student of combat, which is different from just doing something because I want to learn and
Yeah. If you
fight.
want, I mean,
And
again,
you
right?
and you want to get into the heart of the matter.
If you want
Otherwise, you're
truth, right? You know.
otherwise you're lying. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. If you want truth, I mean, where you can convey that to your student body and etc.
Yeah, and it's not for everybody, right? Again, this is not for everybody, but those few who like that kind of shit, then it makes sense, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. This is, let me just see here. Gypsy Fine like James Loriega?
Yeah, he was one of the first who translated it, right?
Okay.
And but we've done a lot more work, including how the blades are made, talking to some of the present day blade makers. What are the migration patterns of the gypsies? What are some of the other arts that they got in touch with?
Mm,
What is the clothing that they wore? Why clothing? Because the way you wear your clothes changes the way you move. So
yeah.
that starts giving you a much more precise idea of the morphology of the blade and the morphology of the movement. So yeah, he did one translation. There's one other gentleman in Oregon whose name I should remember, but it's slipping me. He did another translation, and we did a brand new translation using both native Spanish speakers and guys who spoke the old language, including us getting access to another old manual that has never been translated from Spanish to English, that lays down the entire history of Navajo, starting from the 12th century until it dying out. So bringing all these pieces together and giving it that comprehensive cover, and using a very specific immersion foundation
Mm,
IP of how we do the modeling of this work,
right.
we'll start unraveling this work out. And it's also time for the next generation who've been putting in time and effort to learn these things to come out. As Dean, as you know, the second group that I'm working with now is also beginning to learn some of those pieces on how that particular modeling process works. Is it going to be a book or a presentation? Yes. It's going to start with a presentation. It'll go into peer review before it gets published as a book, hopefully the end of the year.
Nice. Wow, wow, wow. Right. I give you credit again. I just, I would like to say I have some small idea what you endure and what you, but emphasize small idea.
No, actually, I've been really lucky and blessed. Okay. Some wonderful people have come into my life. It's been the blessings of my elders that some of the doors have opened for me that would have not opened. And I think, over the years, people have seen that I've kept my word.
Mm,
I've not just released videos. I've not just, you know, used it to promote things, whatnot. I'm sitting on over 100 terabytes of data with many arts that nobody has ever seen. And some
mm,
of them don't want these arts coming out until they die or their sons die. And we're keeping true to that. And that they have seen us do that over the years, right? It's not one time, two time. They've seen me consistently do that since 2017. So there's that trust that has been built, and we continue to work with that. And I don't want to abuse that. It's a deep responsibility, and that's what opens the doors. And
mm.
for me to have made a conscious decision to not make a living out of doing martial arts, that also helped me open some of these doors that would otherwise not have been opened. So now I'm no longer competition, right? So Justice Jude. So
Oh, so
I
they're
choose,
okay.
you know.
I can see that. So they're not thinking like as far as monetary reasons. That's really interesting. Yeah. Okay. Wow, wow. So man, I just think it's just phenomenal what you're doing here.
Hey, one quick thing, if it just clicked to me. Remember, I
Sure.
was talking to you about uh, the scarf, the knife, and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the ball. Now look at this movement. See if this makes sense to you. It just clicked to me.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, that particular movement, I can show you the roots of it in the 13th century.
Wow, wow, wow. But you know what? You know what? But it actually though, if you think about it, okay, Piper's influence from Ceylon, Ceylon's influence from India.
But where else do you see this? You see
Yeah.
this in 52.
Oh, when he does, what is he calling that? There's skull and
I don't know
bones.
what he calls it.
There's a spear. There's the bowl.
Yeah, the four. I forget what the technique's called, but suddenly you start to see that same movement. It just
Yeah,
clicked to me that hey, that same thing exists here
yeah,
as well. So what you begin to see is like in the old core fighting movements, what did African slaves in Americas have in common
with
with the Indian headhunters in
and
the
this
14th century and some of the Silat fighters
Elon, yeah,
down in Indonesia to the numbers gang in South Africa?
to some Indian
Why do
agent.
they all share the same
Isn't
motion,
that
the
something?
morphology? Yeah,
That is pretty amazing. Wow.
uh, it's random shit, but yeah.
No, I know, I'm learning. But who's got here? Oh, hey, Mike Cardenas. Okay. Um, well, awesome. I appreciate you coming on. This is great. So, folks, if where
Hey,
can folks get a hold of you? Obviously, Messenger the best way to get a
yeah,
hold of you.
Messenger is the best way, and I've not been doing too well. So if there is a delay in my response, I'm not ignoring you. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I'm operating at about 20-25% of my usual energy. So I'm cussing a lot more because of that. Otherwise, I have that more under control.
Well,
Anyway,
I'm grateful what you're doing and appreciate it despite, yeah. It can't be easy. Yeah, yeah. So, well, I'll say I'll be in touch.
yes. And
Yeah.
yeah, guys, I mean, you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Or if you think having a conversation on the Indian arts or just this violence stuff, uh, this is not my first rodeo with this, okay?
Mm,
I've been doing this for a while. I'll be happy to talk about it. Not as a martial arts instructor, though I teach a small group of 5-6 people, but much more as just an explorer and what what that what that means to me and why we do this. I'm happy to get into that. But you ask me a question, if I'm going to answer it, it's going to be truthful, and it's going to make some people unhappy, like especially with the Indian arts and the fight with Islam, the syncretism that happened and the syncretism that didn't happen, how the arts divulged. Um, but when I say something, if I can't prove it, I'm not going to say it. So you better have your data before you come at me.
yeah. But every T's crossed and I's dotted. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing intriguing stuff. I'm like, hey, yes, John, absolutely. Huh? Definitely intriguing. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, I'll be in touch. Yeah, let's touch base next week to, I guess,
Yes.
go over is what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you want to tell them a little bit that what you and I are planning to do.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't know if you want that. Yeah, I was
Yeah, go
kind
for
of.
it. No, go for it.
So I guess I'll be showcasing. I'll let you. No, you certainly. I'll
Yeah,
let you speak
go
on
for it.
here, but tactics from Medusa, tactics from Piper, and some fulsome stuff, which is the book, which is literally pretty easy to see what they did. These are gross motor stuff. It's not overly complicated. Oh, GM Carlino. And then I'll let you. That's certainly what you're gonna
Well,
do.
he's being modest, but essentially what a bunch of us have been doing is we've been examining prison systems from around the world,
Yeah.
and what we've conceptualized and what we've come across is that it operates at four ranges. We'll just call it the super outside range, and then largo, medio, and corto. And everything from the Latin American outside range, the use of jacket scapes and the hidden knife, to suddenly coming into Piper, which is basically largo going into medio, right? And then from there, you look at Medusa, you look at Folsom, you look at some of the other West American knife systems. It goes from medio to corto. And then there is the ultimate assassinations that happen, which is really dirty fighting that you find a lot in Hawaii and India and parts of Latin America, where this ambush happens where 2-3 guys jump you and take you down, and then one guy comes in and starts just puncturing holes in you while your neck while you're being choked from behind or your legs are down. So essentially these are four ranges, and we've started conceptualizing some of the ideas and tactics behind it, and we'll showcase that.
Some of those wonderful distractions and fakes and neat stuff like that. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, and as well as being on the floor with you and working. I mean, I think that's could be stellar. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
and no pressure. You'll just have guys like Mark Mikita, Tom Sotis, and
no pressure. My gosh,
Stephen
I'm like
playing, watching, and saying, "What are you guys doing?"
no pressure. I'm like so I mean, just oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, I know. You know what it is? I told myself I'm kind of preparing myself. Don't look in the audience. Don't look in the audience. Just
So this is where it's easy for me. All I got to do is this.
oh. I'm telling you, man. I'm just be like super outside range, like psychological range, snake range, posturing medicine. Yeah. But yeah, I tell you, I'm just like, don't look at the audience. Don't look. Just pick a spot straight.
You'll be okay, Dean. Don't worry about it. It'll be fun.
My God, I hope so, man. God,
It'll
but
be
with
fun.
preparation with you, I'm sure I'll be fine. Yeah. So
It'll be fun.
yeah,
I mean,
it's just
Tim's presented. Ask him. It's fun.
it's just 3 hours, right? It's just
Yeah, just 3 hours. It'll fly. And you'll get critiques for 3 hours after that, but that's part of it. Honestly, the critiques that come later are really useful, right? Not just from students, that's one piece, but from the other instructors who'll tell you, this didn't make sense, or that didn't make sense, or have you thought about this counter and that counter?
I'm always open
And
to
as
instruction.
long as we are open-minded and say, oh, okay, that
Yeah,
makes sense, I didn't think about it, it's fun.
yeah,
Just and the good thing is, like, we don't let it become an ego thing, so it's pretty chilled out, man.
yeah. I would definitely open. I mean, absolutely be open to constructive
Yeah,
criticism. Yeah,
and
just
no videos get out, or oh yeah, he goofed up.
look at it.
There
Check
won't
this.
be there won't be this video real. Oh, look at Dean getting stabbed and tripped over, or Mahipal falling and on his head and walking into a wall. None of that shit's gonna happen. You know
No, no,
what's Tim
no.
saying?
Yeah. Oh
Tim
God,
saying, I was nervous
I was
also, but just
nervous as
relax.
also, but it was relaxed and time went to. I hope Tim. I'm gonna believe in that, man. I'm gonna run with that, Tim.
It'll be fun, man. I assure
well,
you. Guru Carlito has been there. Ask him. I think he had fun too. I mean, he's been
yeah,
there.
and the
He's been
feedback
he's been
part
to
is
two or three
yeah.
events.
Looking forward
You
to
know?
that too. Anything that will help and improve to be the best version of myself. I'm always open to constructive criticism. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. 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 Well. So yeah, let me know what works to. Yeah, definitely talking. So we already want to start playing.
Yeah, and anyone listening to this, if you have any thoughts or questions or suggestions, or say, hey, you haven't looked at this fighting art or that fighting art, let me know. I don't know all the arts out there, but I'll make that call to anyone anywhere on this planet. And if it gets me enough, I'll fly there or fly them to me,
Yeah.
and we make that happen.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, my pal. Well, hey, hope you feel better, and I'll be in touch. Yeah.
All right, guys. Again,
Okay. Thank you
Dean,
as
thank you
always.
so much. Very much appreciate it.
Oh,
And take care, gentlemen.
anytime, anytime. You can even come back on before we do it again if you want. Anytime,
All
anytime.
right.
No worries.
Take care, guys.
Bye. And here, folks, is the flyer. Pretty amazing. Yeah, just what he's doing with this and what he's done with the previous ones. Again, I can't begin to even fathom just the work that goes into it, the organization, and just, yeah. I mean, working with 10, 12 people, trying to get them in there and time slots. And yeah, then you got to get students in there or attendees rather, to kind of foot the bill, for bringing everybody out. So just amazing. Yeah. So yeah, if you got any questions, definitely reach out to Mahipal. Again, I think 20 to 25 folks are good that can be admitted. Being in a microscope, definitely nervous when it happened to me, but no pressure. You'll get through it. God, I hope so, Jim. God, I hope so. Yeah, it does sound fantastic, but yeah, yeah, it's got to. Yeah, I'm just I get easily overwhelmed in the beginning, but once I get there, I'm sure maybe I'll shake off everything and time will tell. So yeah, at any rate. All right, folks. Thanks for jumping and watching. Who is next? Wednesday night. Yes, Wednesday night. It's gonna be a little later than usual. It's gonna be 9 o'clock Wednesday night, and basically we're gonna be. This could be a multi-episode theme based on Spotty Daga. But the first part of it, if there's multiple parts, will be this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, starting a little later because we're kind of juggling between somebody in the Philippines, I think somebody in Midwest, and then Elric is currently in California. So we're juggling with basically, yeah, 3 or 4 time zones. So, but 9 p.m. this Wednesday. So it should be interesting. It's going to be me with Elric, Tim, who's here in the comment section, and Raimundo. And I'm just going to basically just let them do their thing. Yeah. So, but yeah, anyway, it should be fascinating. The whole Spotty Daga history, misconceptions, perceptions. Yeah, we're gonna go through it all. So check us out. You'll see the flyer. Actually, I gotta get their pics, so hopefully the flyer's gonna be out tomorrow. Matter of fact, the flyer definitely needs to be out by tomorrow. So look for that Wednesday night. All right, guys. I will see you. Hopefully, some of you then.